It's Beatty. Yesterday, I did the hanging with fire reaction. However, that wasn't really a true reaction. It was more accurately a reaction to an idiot online that said he'd gained 2.5 inches in 9 months. So, due to me jumping the gun a bit, I kind of threw Kyrpa's work under the bus inadvertently. So, this video is me, first of all, saying sorry for coming off the jump that hard because I did not fully understand what was going on, but I still have issues with it. I'm going to get into it. And then I'm going to go into some of the comments I received, mainly on Reddit, to explain my point of view a little bit better. So, switch screen. Okay. First and foremost, a person that works with materials and engineering all the time is saying that we are quite overthinking this and that we just need to be consistent and we will see gains. I, for the most part, agree, but at the same time, if you're like me, who can get some money for doing this stuff and helping people, it makes sense for me to test these scientific theories and then report back with what makes things more efficient, in my opinion. However, Kyrpa is doing this for fun, and that's fine too. But for most of you laymen, there is no real reason to be worrying this much about heat, tensile strength, etc. But my main takeaways from all of my research so far has been more often, the better. More sets, the better. And the volume stays the same relative to what you were doing beforehand, and that's not the be all end all. However, every day is better than 4 days a week. So, but your, sorry for bumping the mic, but your total work needs to be relatively consistent. So less work every day, slightly more work 4 days a week, if that makes sense. Okay. And then again with the again I don't really believe things without proof, and then when I seen something so egregious saying 2.5 inches in 9 months, red flags went off, and then I kind of wrote everything off right away because I thought this guy was closely associated with Kyrpa, and that was not really the case. So again, I apologize for that. However, because of so many people coming to the case for this method, I am going to try to be unbiased as possible, but I still have some severe reservations. If it works for you, that's great. However, I don't think it's working for the reasons why you guys think. Let's see. Here we go. So, let's start from the main differences and my main issue. It's not with the heat. It's never been with the heat. It's always been with the strain rate post session. So Kyrpa says you need to be like 102 to 103% to show sufficient work. I think that is too low. However, that does not mean it is not enough to see gains. My thing is that 104 to 106% confirms the fact that there was tissue deformation at some point during your session. If you're beyond 102%, you're technically beyond you elongated the collagen fibrils enough. And then going from there, after let's say you do an hour of tension, so luckily I have a hairband right here. If you hold this for an hour at a certain amount of tension, it will not fully retract back to its normal length. This is called stress softening. So it's going to be slightly longer for a time period. And this is where temporary gains come from like hanging and pumping, other than inflammation. So what Kyrpa is really showing is that 102% elongation or just 2% strain after your session is just stress softening. However, during your session, you will have to hit 4 to 6% at some point to get that stress softening. That's what really confused me about this, because everything I have seen shows that 4 to 6% is necessary in almost every material, at least rubber based material, to show strain softening. And that really comes down to how much work you do to see how far you can stretch after the session. So, with my interval hanging with heat, yes, I use heat. Um, Not always, though, just because it's a pain in the ass to set up. But I will literally hit 104 to 106% every time within an hour. When I don't, I simply just add another set or more weight, right? It's literally that simple. What Kyrpa is showing is that he is getting stress softening, but in my opinion, there's still a lot more room for work. And his entire thing is that you want to avoid strengthening the tissue. Uh, that is, we need to first realize we're dealing with rubber, like a rubber base. So it's not going to have the same like strengthening as say like aluminum. Um, and then on the main thing that makes collagen stronger is the fact that it can get more and more dense. Not necessarily that each collagen fibril gets stronger on its own, but there's just more of them after a while. And then they get thicker, and that's what's really causing the strength adaptation. It is nothing to do with the material itself, it is all biologic. So when you look at material science solely, you're missing out on the biological aspect. Granted, Kyrpa does look at a lot of heating tissues and how that causes the deformation of the tissue, but you got to remember this thing is going to heal. And that's what's actually making it stronger, not necessarily the stress strain curve going above 104% is going to cause hardening. That does not happen with rubber or rubber based materials. Anyway, I don't know if I have I've even showed the screen at all, but let's see. Again, and the last thing, I'm not refuting heat. I am just refuting, I'm not even really refuting Kyrpa. What I'm saying is I think he's leaving some optimization on the table. Okay? So the 2% strain rate just shows plastic deformation, right? 4 to 6% shows a lot of collagen fatigue, and that's what I'm really looking for long term is 4 to 6%. Some people argued that we shouldn't even be trying to get that every time, but we need to look at cumulative strain. So like after a week or two, I'm probably looking at the comment right now actually. Uh, After a week or two, you want to track from 2 weeks ago compared to now, and that's the strain weight you really want to go off of. Kinda, but in my opinion, you're going to be hitting 4% easier each time based off of the science if you're fatigued. So it doesn't really matter. So day by day, if you go by 4% elongation or even 2% like Kyrpa, you will see micro improvements over time. So, yeah. Back to heat though. That's another thing that really confused me is that you need the heating part makes it easier to hit strain rates because that tissue loses its tensile strength. That's why you melt steel before you form it into a blade or something. That heat makes it easier to work with, and then depending on how slow it cools down, controls how strong that tissue will be. Now, this is for hard materials like steel. I mean, steel is technically elastic, but it's relatively inelastic compared to like elastic rubbers. So, and then that's what collagen is more like than anything else. So when we're talking about like heating elements like that, it complicates, it overcomplicates it a bit. So yeah, let's see. Is there anything else I'm missing? Okay, back to the heating part. I know I'm all over the place and I apologize. He's heating his tissues, right? He is hanging like what, between 3 kg, no, between 2 kg and 4 kg. For us filthy Americans, that is like 5 pounds to 10 pounds. which is exactly what I recommend. Anyway, that heating is going to make it significantly easier to hit these strain rates of 4 to 6%. So, yeah, it just does not make sense that he's only going for 2%. You know, like it's going to be too easy for him to hit 4 to 6% after an hour, is my real argument. Now, granted, he's looking pre and post, but that's besides the point. The main takeaway is I don't think he is getting 102% elongation during the session. During the session, he's probably well beyond that 104 to 108%, if we're being honest. But, what is it? Okay, I think I've hammered that point home enough. That I don't disagree with him on like the actual theory. I disagree with him on the semantics of it. So, yeah, if you can only get 102% after a session, I still think there's room for more work. But again, your body's different than mine, and you cannot expect two of the same people. I mean, two different people to have the same results. So, yeah, I still think you need to shoot for 4% elongation after your session. But if you can only get it during your session, you're probably okay. Does that make sense? Um, let's see. I also messaged him on Thunder's Place. Let's see. Can you guys see this? It's not the message. It's just basically, I just wanted to point out how much work Kyrpa puts into this. He is making literally models in CAD of the tunica. But that's another thing. You got to also account for the blood holding tissue's tensile strength. So that's another thing that complicates. However, the tunica is going to be stronger than everything else and going to be taking the brunt of the weight. Anyway, he goes in talking about how, like, the load increment was 3.4 to 9.9 kg. He does everything in millipascals because he just wants to complicate the fuck out of it for me. No. Basically, that's just what the research used as, or pascals is just a normal thing for force and strain. So that makes sense if you're taking this a very scientific approach. Basically, this was his calculator for calculating the amount of strain. And oddly enough, that usually comes to about 4 to 6 pounds, which is what I've been saying for like 2 years now. But anyway. Let's see. I'm looking for some mean comments. This one from one of the moderators. Luckily, we don't need a PhD to perform PE. Yeah, no shit. But this guy is trying to make it easier for people to guarantee gains, which is something your people have struggled with for decades at this point. And shit like this is the reason why we haven't gone mainstream. Not necessarily that you guys wanted to go mainstream, but a lot of guys have size insecurity. If they knew this was a viable option, would you not think they would go through with it? And it's always the old heads. This guy has been a member since 2003. So I don't think he likes the challenge. Oh, and there's S squared. Anyway, let's see. Frankly, it was too long to read and I lost interest from another moderator. You should not be sowing division, right? This guy is trying to help people. Just because you don't fully understand it does not mean other people are not interested in it. And belittling his work is not good. Okay? It's just not a good look, in my opinion. And I lost a lot of respect for the team at Thunder's Place after seeing this yesterday. And I just wanted to point that out. However, I will say that this does complicate things a good bit. But I do respect him trying something new. And again, it is scientifically sound. It really comes down to semantics between me and him. Let's see. I did message him. I'm not logged in on this computer, and for some reason my password manager is not backed up to this one. Oh, I know why. Because this is my dick account, not my personal account. Anyway, hopefully he'll reach out back to me. I also asked him to make a post on r/gettingbigger, and hopefully I can poach him from Thunder's Place and have him post here, where he'll have a little bit more respect. But yeah, again, I'm sorry for jumping the gun. I hope I can hear from Kyrpa soon, either directly or indirectly through Reddit, and we'll go from there. If you believe in Kyrpa's work, go ahead and keep doing it. All I'm saying is the strain rate does not match what I've been seeing and what I think is optimal. That's the only thing that's really different. Yes, he complicates it, but if you want it to be as meticulous as possible, by all means go for it. So, uh, hopefully I don't have to talk about this for a week. I really need a break about from Dick. I've been thinking about this for like a day now. So, yeah, this is BD signing off.